Have you ever poured your heart into someone who only gave you pieces of theirs? Have you ever stayed up late trying to decode someone's silence, thinking maybe, just maybe, you were overthinking it? You're not crazy. You're not needy. You're not asking for too much. You're just dealing with someone who is emotionally unavailable. And the truth is, emotional unavailability wears a mask, pretends to care, pretends to show up, and sometimes even pretends to love. But behind the mask is distance, detachment, and a wall you can't seem to climb. So how do you know when someone is emotionally unavailable? Let's walk through the signs, because if this is your story, maybe it's time to stop fighting for a connection that was never truly there. 1. They're there, but not present. You text them and they reply. You go on dates and they show up. But somehow it still feels like you're alone. You talk, but it never gets deep. You try to open up, but they change the subject. You share your heart, but they just nod and say, "That's crazy," or "You'll be fine." They're physically present, but emotionally absent. And that's one of the loneliest places to be. Next to someone who makes you feel invisible. 2. They don't ask questions about your feelings. When you love someone or even just care, you ask. You ask how they're doing. You notice when they're off. You listen to what's behind the words. But with someone emotionally unavailable, it's like talking to a wall. You say, "I had a rough day," and they say, "Oh, okay. So what's for dinner?" You open up and they shut it down. They don't lean in, they lean away. Not because you're hard to love, but because they don't know how to love emotionally. 3. Vulnerability makes them uncomfortable. Whenever things get too real, too raw, too honest, they change the subject, make a joke, or shut down. They're fine with fun and flirty, but the moment you touch something deep, their fear takes over. And you're left feeling like you're too emotional, when really, they're just too guarded. 4. They have a history of short or failed relationships. Look at the pattern. Do they always blame the other person? Were their exes crazy, needy, too much? Because emotionally unavailable people rarely take accountability. They leave a trail of broken bonds. Not because they don't meet the right people, but because they don't let anyone truly get close. And when closeness threatens them, they run. Again, and again, and again. 5. They avoid labeling the relationship. It's been months, but you still don't know what you are. They give you just enough to stay, but never enough to feel secure. They don't want titles. They don't want pressure. They just want vibes. But the truth is, if someone wants to be with you, they'll want to claim you. 6. They prioritize control over connection. They do things on their terms. They call, text, and see you when it's convenient for them. When you express a need, they call you dramatic. When you want more, they say you're clingy. They keep you at arm's length. Not because they don't care at all, but because caring deeply means losing control. And they'd rather protect their ego than risk their heart. 7. They're emotionally inconsistent. One moment they're warm, the next they're cold. One day they're all in, the next they're nowhere to be found. Keeps you on edge, constantly wondering where you stand. You start blaming yourself for the emotional whiplash. But it's not your fault. They're not confused about you. They're confused about themselves. And you can't make someone love you consistently when they don't love themselves securely. 8. They never say, "I'm sorry." At least not sincerely. They hurt you and act like you're overreacting. They dismiss your feelings and tell you to let it go. You end up apologizing for being hurt, instead of them apologizing for hurting you. Emotionally unavailable people struggle with empathy, because to admit they hurt you would require facing their own flaws. And that's something they're not ready for. 9. You feel emotionally starved. Love should feel like safety, peace. But with them you feel like you're constantly chasing scraps. Little attention here. Small compliment there. It's never enough. You crave more, but settle for less. And that deep ache in your chest, that's not love. That's emotional malnourishment. 10. They tell you they're not ready, but you think you can change their mind. They say it clearly. I'm not ready for something serious. I'm not good with emotions. I've been hurt before. But instead of listening, you fall for their potential. You think your love can fix them. You think patience will earn you a place in their heart. But hearts don't open because of pressure. They open because of choice. And if they've already told you they can't love you fully, please believe them. Here's the hardest part to accept. Sometimes the person you want the most is the most incapable of giving you what you deserve. You want deep love. You want honest, consistent, safe, and present love. But they can't give it. Not because you're asking for too much, but because they have too little to offer. So what do? You walk away. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving yourself. You deserve someone who doesn't flinch at your feelings. Someone who holds your heart with care. Someone who makes you feel chosen. So if the signs are there, don't ignore them. Don't make excuses. And most importantly, don't betray your own heart just to stay in someone else's story.